Welcome to the Uriah Jokes podcast. The only podcast that exists in the world that has Uriah in it repeatedly talking to himself, wishing, hoping for feedback. But the only feedback he gets is from the static of the mics. But Quiet Place Part 1 and Part 2, the sounds get rid of the monsters. So basically what I'm getting at is if you're looking, or what I'm basically getting at is if there is an alien invasion and you don't have access to sound, my comedy will scare away the aliens just as much as static. So how about that? And if you're like, Uriah, those are spoilers. If you haven't seen Quiet Place 1 already, I don't know what to say to you. I don't think there's any faith in you as a person. Unless you're a fan of mine who doesn't like horror films or hasn't seen it yet because of, other things, then nah, it doesn't apply to you. Fantastic, but this is it. If you're like Uriah, is this completely different than last time you set it up? Yes. Why is it ever going to be the same each time? Because I never want to set the bar a standard, which I always get to never set the bar. But hey, this card says, Uriah, it takes a lot of persistence and talent to make it in stand-up. Why do you think you're any different to make it? So this is what I say to that. It's completely unrelated to stand-up. But I think if we, as a whole human species, agree and are okay with a gecko selling us car insurance and it working, I think that's proof that anything is possible. Ayo, if a gecko can sell you on insurance, I can sell you on me as a comedian. So how about that? My friends, he has difficulty in the bedroom, right? And so what he does is he has difficulty like being late for places too. So he sets his clock a minute ahead. But I'm like, hey man, that's no excuse for coming early. A minute's a minute, no matter what you do. Ayo! Talk about a 2-minute warning then. Ayo! 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 Oh, alright, so. And you know what? The thing about jokes is I have to create them out of thin air. And one of my viewers is like, hey, Uriah, share some stories. Share some stories. I mean, I got tons of stories about my life, but a lot of them I'm kind of waiting to develop into stand-up bits instead of use them on the podcast. But certainly, I'm not really that much into sharing stories because I'm not much of a communist. Ayo! Right back on my knee. How about that for a knee slapper? Ayo! So what this story is going to be about, communist, ayo, is actually the worst time I ever bombed on stage. And I think I'm fairly confident this will be the worst I will ever in my career bomb on stage. And I'm not talking about my birth. Ayo. Is actually the worst. A few years ago, I had a comedy set. This will be where I went down with my comedian friend Trey, who was featuring, or he was headlining. He was featuring or headlining. I should have that right, but this is such a traumatic experience. I don't remember all the details correctly. And I even messaged my friend. And I'm like, Trey, do you remember that time I bombed? He said, Uriah, we're never ever gonna talk about that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm gonna talk about today. So I went down from LA. We went down in this Prius. So already. We're doing great. We're setting the bar where we're setting the bar. And I know the people that produce this show because I have them on my Brass Bear show. So there's and I do good at that set. So I feel like I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling good about the set. I'm not going there like, ooh, I'm gonna bomb. So we get there, it's an ice cream parlor. So no alcohol, no kind of cheats to make it instantly funnier. And it's in the back where you have to go through like a cooler. Well, it looks like a cooler, but it's not. It's kind of like a speakeasy for ice cream if people with diabetes took over the world. and it was a small room. And I'm an introvert, so when I get the shows, is what I like to do is use that as an excuse to just work on my set. But someone ended up talking to me. It's like, oh, you're a comic, right? You're a comic, right? Oh, what you think? I'm writing a manifesto over here? What type of person would write a manifesto in a ice cream parlor? Actually, nowadays with America, anything is possible with that. So he's talking to me, and I let him know, I produce shows in Santa Barbara, and I kind of hype myself up a little bit too much. And he's like, I look forward to laughing to you. But I think at that moment, too, he's like, you better make me laugh. So at this point, I've been doing comedy for like 2.5 years, give or take. And there's going to be a lot of taking besides. And producing these shows, and I was doing a lot of shows just in Santa Barbara. So I was getting very confident. And then organically, what will happen is, and this can happen in multiple different ways. Like, if somebody spends a lot of time in like an open mic scene around just open mic comedians and their friends all the time, and they're not really doing shows, their act will just organically, subconsciously morph into something that will make their friends laugh, because they don't want to go up and bomb. They got that fallback to make their friends laugh, and they still feel like they're doing something. So that's not a great cycle to get yourself in. It's like anything. It's like dating. It's like you're bombing, but if you only hang out with your friends, you're never giving yourself that opportunity, to have a relationship. I mean, that should be advice I use for dating. And with this show, there wasn't a lot of people there, so what they did is they barked in the people. So what that means is they went on the street and people were like, hey, we have a comedy show, get some ice cream. You know what? It's going to be great. It's like comedy, ice cream, what could go wrong? Well, Uriah could go wrong. Oh, man. Oh, I'm getting nervous again, reliving this experience for the enjoyment of my fans. That's right. But not fans, we're family, because I'm the Olive Garden of comedy. All breadsticks. What the fuck does that mean? So basically, if you have like a show where someone's paying $20, they're expecting to laugh. They're ready to laugh. They payment. Who knows how long they've been looking forward to it, but they're like, not really make me laugh. It's like, yes, we're ready to laugh. We're sitting here. We're spending the money, and it's good. But when someone's barked in, there's more of this expectation. You better make me laugh. I was gonna go somewhere else, but now I'm eating ice cream, which is good. Well, I'm getting a nice sugar high, right? But make me laugh. So I go up, and a lot of the bits that I did a couple years ago, I'm just not, even if they kind of work, I'm just not doing them to make sure I'm not holding on to the open mic kind of writing comedian that I was. Much like the City Hall clips that you've all seen, those jokes can still work, but I don't want to be seen as, oh, this guy's still doing the same jokes of when he was doing he a couple years ago. I don't want to be written off. But just for the sake of where you guys see me, I'll do that joke. So I open with, I believe, my name's Uriah. My parents named me that because they say it's a very powerful name. But most people get it wrong. They say Uriah. And that makes me sound less like a powerful man as much as a powerful transmitted disease. Okay, see, that's kind of fun. I mean, I don't think people like hearing Uriah. I've actually had people say like, I don't really like that. And it makes sense. But the thing about that joke is I only got like a small little laugh. But then I have a tag where basically I add on to the joke. And I'm like, so I was in the waiting room and they call my name Uriah. And I have to get up as if that's my name. Then the person behind me goes, Uriah, I hope I don't have that. So mild laugh there, not a lot, but then I added to it again and I'm like, my insurance will not cover a Uriah. So what I did there is I was at a point in my comedy career where I was very heavily relying more on keeping to the sets I was doing, the jokes I was doing, rather than kind of embracing it and being Uriah Westman as the comedian. And this is kind of what happens is Trey, who was there, it comes with, you got to get your writing to a certain level, and then same time, what starts growing is who you are as a person. So once those kind of align, that's where you start hitting and start doing really good. Once you have the material that's A, and you're being yourself on stage, so you're getting an authentic comedy experience, and the audience can know that. The audience can feel whether or not it feels really rehearsed. And nervous energy. Me, I don't smile a lot on stage. People say, Uriah, laugh at your jokes on stage. It doesn't really work because I've told those jokes a lot of times. Comedians, you tell the joke again and again, and you think about more tags, you think about more bits, and then you lose that authenticity if I'm laughing, kind of fake laughing at the jokes. And then, so these jokes don't really do well, and then I start diving into my Santa Barbara jokes. And one of them is, I went to go do a wine tasting. Hey, Uriah, you want to do a wine tasting? Great, I love a white privilege safari. And no one laughed at that. People in Santa Barbara, they laugh at it. And whether or not you think it's funny is irrelevant. I don't do the joke anymore. It's done. But they hated it. But at that point, what I did is I still, rather than listening to the audience, because I wasn't really at that point where I could differentiate that, right? So I just kept doing the wine stuff. And then also at that point, it was more kind of insulting to the crowd because it's not working. Drop the bit. And this is where there's like Bill Hicks, there's like this 10 laws or rules of comedy, not rules, or something like the Bible of comedy. I don't know. I'll link down below. You guys can look at it. But one of it is, it's the material is what you fall back on, which means is you can have the material, but if you yourself are funny, you got the essence of funny, that can sometimes just work. And you can mix in off the cuff stuff with real jokes, new jokes, and that's what I do now. Now what I do is I'm half playing with the audience, I'm half doing my written material, and the more the audience is enjoying me, the more I can thrive and feed on that. But when you are bombing, when I am bombing a front, just imagine this. You're in an ice cream parlor, 10 people, a guy, me, you, 6 feet away, right? We're in a very small space, and they're just licking the ice cream. Frowning. I made history as the first person ever to make ice cream depressing. Uriah, what's his comedy? Like, he made ice cream depressing. He made me want to quit sugar. He made me sober. And I started taking a little bit of liberties. So I'm like, okay, this isn't working. I didn't have much in terms of like jokes. I had jokes, but the nervousness, I couldn't think of anything. But then I started going in my conspiracy theorist stuff, where I had a joke about Alex Jones, and that was Alex Jones' example of somebody who wasn't finished having a stroke, and it got a laugh. But what I did there then is instead, I did have other jokes about conspiracies and vaccines, but I took that as, ooh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go real. So I went real and then dived into stories about me being part of multiple cults growing up. I will get to those stories, but it's kind of like a thing I want to master it because there's a well of information that there's probably, the devil down there, because the devil wears Prada. That's right. That's why I wear Ross. And what I did, and kind of my style is, it used to be, and I've changed now, I used to do the joke and then wait for either people to get the joke or for the laughter to stop, which is a comic. One of my first sets gave me the advice, you have to wait until the laughter stops, and people get the joke. And that really hurt me. That was, okay, I gotta do it this way. And then meanwhile, that turns out to just be some open mic comedian nonsense. It's nothing. So it didn't make any sense. So what I did is, imagine this. It's kind of like the City Hall thing, except it's different because it's everyone facing me, licking ice cream, contemplating their lives of what brought them into an ice cream parlor. on like a Tuesday night watching somebody be unfunny. You know how they say something's bitter and sweet? That was bitter, bitter, bitter. Bitter, bitter patter. So I just sat in. That's what I learned. And I'll get to our stuff. So just keep going. So the real bombing, it just like keeps going because then I share personal stuff and it doesn't work. And then it just gets worse and worse. And then people leave and then they're picking up more ice cream and it's just... And I can see everybody's eyes. Everybody wants me to get off the stage, but you fill the time. I don't know if the host is there. I don't know if the next comedian is ready. You have to fill the time. It doesn't matter how bad it is. And I was like, I gotta fill the time, and I ended up doing it. I made the impossible possible. I made ice cream unfun, unfunny. You know, people... Who screams for ice cream? Well, guess what? People were screaming in their hearts for help. Just imagine telling jokes for 10 minutes straight, no laughs. You give them a glimmer of hope just to spill your guts and just stand there in silence with the sounds of people licking ice cream. It doesn't get much worse than that. So I'll share this one part about the cult joke. No, I won't. So I ended the joke. There was somebody that had rollerblades with them. So I'm like, okay, I can make the joke about rollerblades. She leaves in the middle of my set. People leave in the middle of my set. I cut the audience by 20%. So then all the other comedians, they don't like me because what you do is you start you set a standard. Like if I did audition somewhere and bombed, the booker is gonna remember me as a shitty comedian. It's just, that's the way it is. So those comedians are like, what the fuck? And Trey, one of my good friends, like comedian friends, would definitely, he felt really awkward. So not only this, is I was telling the joke about the rollerblades. It's like, so I dislocated myself. I rollerblade. I dislocated my shoulder rollerblading. I didn't fall down. Just the entire community of Santa Barbara saw what I was doing and beat the crap out of me. Nothing. Silence. Closer. Done. I just walked through it. And then the thing about that, it's not a bar. I can't go get like a drink and just forget about it. I go sit in the back. It's not like I could go get an ice cream and just sit there crying, eating ice cream in the corner. So I had to stay there. And then the only thing worse after bombing is staying there. You still feel it's still there. And the next comedian has to fix it. And there's just, you could feel the relief in the room when it was over. It was like that little teeny moment when you... Basically, my set was like when you think that you still have ice cream in the freezer, but your roommate ate it. That was my entire set, but you're doing that for 10 minutes straight. And there's no Uber, there's no delivery, there's no ice cream. Yeah, no delivery. I mean, I had no delivery. And so afterwards, and this is what's amazing, is if I was just alone, I probably wouldn't have learned what I did, but Trey gave me advice. It's like, Uriah, you can't sit in it when it's bad. I know you don't feel it, but it makes the awkwardness even worse, which I thrive on the awkwardness, but if the awkwardness has no laughs connected to it for a 10-minute stretch, ooh, that's a stretch of highway you don't want to be on, man. You do not want to be on that highway. I'm talking about any highway in Arizona or Nevada, anywhere with a desert, no gas. I was a broken down car with no gas, with a freezer in the back with melted ice cream that my roommate took. That was my set. My set actually gave the audience such a cold shoulder, I probably should go do my set in the polar ice caps because that would solve global warming. And what I also did at this point is I didn't listen to the crowd. You don't always you shouldn't form your set and cater to the crowd, but I should have noticed they do not want to hear jokes about being white. And then also Trey was like, people were digging your conspiracy stuff. I could have got the crowd. Except I didn't think any of the jokes would work. I forgot I had working jokes that would work, but there's just so many when someone's staring at you in your face, licking an ice cream, well, I look like I'm about to cry because I don't smile, and I got pain and misery just in these eyes because I just permanently look like I'm the type of person that's always worried about how white he is. Oh no, I'm doing it again. Ice cream, well, he's like, you can't do Santa Barbara material. I'm like, I understand all of this. And since then, I have never stepped foot in an ice cream parlor because parlors have tricks. And I don't want to be the blunt of the parlor trick. And since then, and the thing about this is the story gets worse. So yes, I learned from it. But the next week, it's not like a lot of time to get better. I got a show, unpaid show, at some brewery in Denver. That went great. It was a great show. But there was also an open mic, and one of the producers of that saw my worst bomb of my life came in the middle of my set as I was trying out new material that was not working and make eye contact with me, and I immediately got incredibly nervous, and bombed again. So reiterated it. I did learn, but it takes time to listen to and learn from that. But just the odds in the world, the odds that in two different cities, in LA, Beverly Hills, LA, at a show, and then another open mic in Denver, Colorado the next week. That proves once and for all we are living in a computer simulation, and the joke is on me. But obviously I've grown from that. I'm still not one time did I think I need to stop I need to quit comedy. Not once. But the thing here is, what I see a lot from either other comedians or a lot of people is it's not self-aware. You have to be self-aware, and you have to be able to take criticism sometimes. Not all the time. You don't need to take it if it's unwarranted or some random person. Oh, Uriah, I got a bit you could try. I don't want that. But if I would have went at this a different route and been like, no, fuck, it was the fucking crowd. It was because there wasn't enough people. It's because of the ice cream and there was no alcohol and meh. If I would have went that route, other than learning from that set, I don't think I would be where I'm at as a comedian now. Because it's so important in anything in life to always learn from anything. And that's why I'm essentially agnostic, because when you connect yourself to something and you lock yourself into a certain belief, you start hindering your growth as a person. And me, I grew up in a cult. I grew up in a cult. I'm not gonna share the story, but this will wind everything together. And at school, everyone's talking about, they did this thing in class, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, the hell, you get to grow up? I mean, my friend Tony at the cult said he wanted to grow up to be a firefighter. No, and we haven't seen him since, but the crops grew really good that year. But hey, that is the story of the worst I ever bombed in my life. It doesn't get much worse than even a sugar rush, a chemical reaction. A chemical reaction in the brain can still be thwarted. Thwarted? That's a nice $20 word. By bad comedy. So in that moment, People that see me probably will think I'm not funny, but take the negative aspects of whatever you have in your life, learn from it, get a therapist, get better help, and talk to a Russian bot, and before you know it, you'll be having a podcast with 20 viewers just like me. And this has been the Uriah Jokes Podcast. New episodes every Monday. And guys, I'm getting very, 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 very close to being part of the YouTube Partner Program. So hey, you got a dog, you got a pet, or you just leave the TV on and just put my stuff on autoplay when you're out in the day, get my stuff up, because contrary to some people commenting on below, I do not make money from this.